Very good morning, Rolf.
Thank you.
Rolf Percy Herberg from RINA. Very happy to have you as our sponsor and speaker at this year's Nielsonsmith Anti-Corruption and Ethics Summit here in Munich. Absolute pleasure working with you. Great character and your deep knowledge of the subject I know has gone down well in the room. Your presentation yesterday on ISO 37 was very well received. I mean, it's always, like I said, in my experience, half the people are not interested, the other are, but I saw the whole room was pretty much interested in what you were saying and were interactive with you and asking questions.
Yes.
What are the key points of your presentation that you would like the delegates to take away with them?
I think there are a few things. Number one is don't start to set up systems that are not working. Just tick boxes to make lawyers or finance auditors happy are not possible in these days, because if something going wrong, no one will accept the excuse. There's a box ticked, so we need to find ways which are workable. And this in these days where we have not enough resources is a challenge. That's one thing. The other thing is you need the guidance to set up a system. And the 37,001 is one opportunity. For sure there are others, but it's a help. And last but not least, the certification has two benefits. One is a piece of paper you can put on your wall saying we are certified. But for us it's more important to do a recent audit. So take the chance, have external experts in your office who are not working for authorities, who are not calling immediately authorities, I found something, where your service provider, your partners, to discuss things and to improve the systems. That's the key things from our side.
Yeah, I like that because it ties in very well with the last presentation we had from Stefan Meschini-Giordano, where people are talking about how do we measure this thing? Almost, how do we, when we're talking to the board, how do we prove to them, how do we show to them what we're doing and how we're doing it? And I think it's a very important point what you're saying there. It acts as a tool.
Yeah, I have a very small example from what we are doing recently in RINA. We decided to handle personal data not from personal email accounts, because the office accounts are not copied on the local drives. And the reason is that we are fair. In the moment you have a local copy of critical data on your laptop and the laptop is stolen or the passwords are corrupted, that the data is open. The issue is, if you don't encrypt the laptops to hard drive, which is a challenge, it makes no change why you have always local copies. When you get an email with an attachment, you open the attachment, most time it's already automatically in the system a copy, or you take a copy to read it in patience on the plane or whatever. So it's one thing to say don't use your private accounts, but you need to go ahead, elsewhere it's bring nothing. And this is the challenge for all the things. We discussed yesterday GDPR and the interpretation. So these are challenging times for compliance officer, for sure. Yeah,
which of course leads me into the next question. Things are fast changing out there. I mean, politically, we don't know what's happening 1 month from literally to the other at the moment. Brexit on the horizon, of course. What do you think are the greatest challenges facing compliance officers today?
I think it's a mixture. Number one is we are facing more and more authorities pressuring companies to do things which are above the legal requirements. And especially when you work with some authorities from the North Americas, for example, and other areas, who are honestly telling you, we ignore the European legislation. We want to see that one. What is the consequence? Companies adding cookie policies on their servers, they are adding comments, they are writing data protection policies, and at the end, when you tick the box and sign, your data is open on the market because they are forced by DOJ and others to open all the books. And the same, it's a challenge when the serious fraud office coming in. There's no privacy anymore. When they start to investigate, you have to be very honest, very open, and you cannot hide anything. And that's the challenge, how to balance.
It's interesting that just as we get the GDPR, privacy, of course, is the greatest thing.
No, I think that GDPR has not so many changes compared to previous European regulations. But it was a reminder and an eye-opener. That's a challenge. And we have the balance between security and data protections. That's a challenge for us.
Yeah, which of course was a point again brought up yesterday, and I won't go any further, but some interesting answers, let's say, from the authorities when questioned on those areas. Lastly, Rolf, thank you so much again for being one of our sponsors and speakers at the event. Like I said, it's a pleasure working with you. You have a deep knowledge of the subject. I think that comes over, and the delegates again have talked well of the presentation. It is the first time you've worked with us and come down here. We try to do things differently, a little bit more interactive than a normal conference, moving away from death by PowerPoint and things. What are your impressions on it?
The first impression when I get in the room, I was scared, saying so few people. I have to be fair. But on the other hand, you were right when you said less but more interaction. When this is the fourth event like this I interacted in the last 12 months. And the interaction was much better than others. So maybe it's the best to less, but the right ones in the room.
Yeah. And that's of course what we're trying to do here.
Yeah.
Like I always said, we can fill the room with many other companies, but if we want people to open up and talk to each other, it's got to be peer-to-peer.
Yeah, and I think that's the benefit of this event for us, to show our competences, to get in connection with potential customers. For sure, that's always the reason to be a sponsor. But the balance was nice, and not so many lawyers. No, because when you're talking with lawyers or finance auditors, you're always getting back to, oh, this is written in the law. We ignore what is workable. And I think that's why I'm a personal fan of management systems, because the intention is to be in compliance, but to show that it's working. And not just ticking boxes, because this will not help you.
Yeah, and I think we'll have a round table and a bit of a panel discussion in the afternoon going over the points, just seeing what's been talked about in the room. Rolf, once again, thank you so much for coming down. Thank you so much for supporting us. It's been a pleasure working with you, and great to have a drink and something to eat last night down at the Augustina. It was a pleasant evening. Rolf, thank you very much.